So silence your cell phones, hold your applause, and tune into the truth.
Oh, you didn't know? Your ass better call somebody.
Getting beat up by 9 guys in Syracuse, to me, there's not a whole lot of shame in.
From the 315 to the world, this is the Heel to Face podcast.
The cream of the crop! Wow, man, freaked out!
Follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face.
I said, are you ready?
From Armory Square in downtown Syracuse, New York, let's send it now to Dustin, Brandon, and Jared.
Bad luck seems to be my middle name. They might as well tag me up with my buddies from Syracuse.
Another week of the Heel to the Face podcast. Joined as always with Brandon Icebreaker Clements, myself at K-Rock Jared. You can find him on Twitter at Icebreaker21. Myself, clearly, at K-Rock Jared. I just introduced myself, but most importantly, follow the show at Heel to the Face. That's where we put the links to our show out every week. No Dustin again this week. It's been a struggle to get him back in studio, but don't worry. He is still with the program, and hopefully we have him back soon.
We should have him next week, I think.
Hopefully. That's what we've been saying for about 3 weeks straight now.
I know.
But either way, he's probably glad he's not here because what we're about to talk about is, well, what is there to talk about? A pretty bad week in the world of WWE. We start with Super Showdown. I know we disagreed because I think we actually did talk about this. We disagree on a lot of things. We overall agreed that Super Showdown was an awful show.
Garbage.
But I think Triple H versus Randy Orton, that was a good match. I think that's one of the only matches I think at the event that had kind of a build-up going into it, other than maybe Kofi and Dolph Ziggler. But overall, I think that was a decent match. Everything else on the card was absolutely awful. Vince McMahon not too happy, obviously, with Goldberg being dropped on his head from The Undertaker. But those guys showed that they probably shouldn't be in the ring at this time.
Yeah, overall, Super Showdown, I agree with you on that. It was a train wreck. It was 4 hours of my life I will never get back. So thank you, WWE, for an awful show. The Randy Orton Triple H, it was okay.
For those guys, I think they put on a good match. I feel if it was a WrestleMania match with a good build, it probably wouldn't have been any better than that.
Yeah, it was okay. That's the only match worth even talking about. That was an okay match. The rest of it was trash. It was awful. And I get the 50-man battle royal. I know it was cool. They did the local hometown kid. That was cool.
But that was a jobber-filled battle royal.
Yeah,
I didn't have high expectations, but I thought at least maybe in the battle royal we'd get something good. I know every single week it seems like somebody here or somebody somewhere is pulling out when Bray Wyatt's going to make his return officially back in the ring. I picked AJ Styles. I thought maybe he'd be back. Did not pick Mansoor, but we can probably use this. This is a good question.
Who else really picked him? Who? None of us did. Anybody besides the fans in Saudi Arabia, I don't think anybody thought this guy was going to win.
I will not lie. Okay, I'm gonna admit something here on the show, and maybe you're gonna stop watching the podcast because we are not wrestling experts here. But I was watching the show with a group of people, and as soon as Mansoor won, I did turn away for a second. I wasn't just focused straight on the screen, but I turned away from the screen. As soon as Mansoor won, I said, "They really gave it to Mustafa Ali, huh?" And it took me like a second to realize, wait a minute,
man,
that's not Mustafa Ali.
Even I knew that.
And then I saw Mustafa Ali shake the hand of Mansoor, and I remembered that Mustafa Ali, he was on the apron, and he got that, what was it, the kick that kicked him off, or was it the double suplex? He was in there near the end, I know that. He was one of the last 4 or 5 guys in there.
It was just
but it wasn't him winning.
It was a train wreck. I would have been okay with Elias winning, I guess. Because Elias it's at least... here's the thing. Maybe it's not good if Elias won. Actually, I'll take that back because this Battle Royal, it might have been the biggest 50. It
made the greatest Royal Rumble look a lot better, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, and that, here's my thing. You see 45 guys all walk down together. There was like 5 entrances, and Miz is the biggest name. Hey, I like the Miz. Don't get me wrong. But when Miz is like the only name you really like, are like, all right, he's legit. The rest of these guys are jobbers that, majority of the time aren't even on.
It was, I was expecting like the greatest Royal Rumble. I was expecting some sort of unique names. I was expecting some NXT guys, maybe some Adam Cole, Johnny Gargano. No.
Awful.
Nothing. Nobody.
Awful. But they should just stop doing this 50-man battle royal if you're going to put out a show like that. That was an awful show. That match was terrible. I'm a loss for words. That's how mad I am.
With this show, it kind of brought up the question. So obviously Mansoor, after he won the event with from being from Saudi Arabia, he was in the Royal Rumble last year. Now, obviously, we saw in 1 year what happened with his career. I didn't even know he was still around. But apparently, yes, he is signed with NXT. And just saw earlier today, which today is a Thursday, June the 13th, that some new Saudi Arabia talents were also signed. Mansoor and the rest of these guys, where do you see these Saudi Arabian prospects? I mean, because they go over there and they run these like performance center training camps and they pick up a few guys and throw them in NXT. Do you hold on any hope for Mansoor or anybody else to really do anything in WWE, or do you think this is all a big ploy, a big just, hey, we're doing something over there kind of?
That's the latter. I would say the latter. I don't see any of these guys going anywhere. I mean, honestly, maybe no offense, but I mean, Mansoor, he had the one move he did was all right, the kick, but everybody does super kicks now. I mean, the Young Bucks are doing, super kicks all the time. I mean, every wrestler I feel like nowadays is doing a super kick. So, I mean, that's like the most overused, recycled move in the business right now is the super kick. I mean, no one did it better than HBK. I mean, his super kick was the bomb. It was the best. Mansoor, yeah, it's great. He won the really crappy Battle Royal. I think he should just, honestly, these guys, their ceilings maybe evolve. Maybe it's like, it's like the single A. So, I guess you would call NXT like double A or triple A, and then you bring Evolve and maybe a single A or high A ball.
My big thing is with these guys, it has nothing to do with these guys or their talent or anything like that.
Not at all.
What it has to do with the fact that they're being signed as more or less a part of the reason of their going over there. It's not like Yao Ming was signed because NBA wanted to start playing some games in China. Yao Ming was signed individually because Yao Ming was a good player. It had nothing to do with the NBA. It's like, hey, we're going to host some games in China, and while we're over there, let's pick up a guy. Hey, we're going to play some NFL games in London. Hey, while we're over there, like, let's start doing some London camps and just pick up some people. Meaning that Yao Ming stuck out. Like Jinder Mahal, those kind of people, they stuck out. They were not as part of an initiative. It's essentially kind of like affirmative action. Obviously there's some people in the police force or any other places that have affirmative action that, there are quotas. You have to have a certain number of people. They went to Saudi Arabia. They're like, you got to hire like one or two of these guys because we're running some sort of training camp. And that's really kind of how the Mansoors of the world got picked. He got picked from other Saudi Arabians to be picked, of course. But, the fact that they were running the camp to begin with, he didn't take the trip over to America to really show they came to him. And they had to hire somebody, or they were looking to hire somebody so that they could have a.k.a. Mansoor win in front of a home crowd.
Yep.
That's why he won, because it was that whole aspect of winning in front of the home crowd and kind of being a show of...
I don't have any disrespect for the Saudi Arabian athletes that have been signed. It's realistically speaking, what do we expect out of these guys? I haven't... Honestly, I forgot Mansoor was the guy they signed last year.
Yeah, he was in the greatest Royal Rumble. And, of course, he hasn't done anything in WWE and really until they returned to Saudi Arabia.
He hasn't been in any shows, NXT or anything. I haven't even heard this guy's name. And I had to go, of course I did a quick Google thing, and I looked around. I was like, oh, that's the guy that signed last year. Okay.
He is NXT property. If you're watching on YouTube, we have a WrestleMania program behind me, and he is in the WrestleMania program as well as the other Saudi Arabian talent as part of an NXT roster. But again, NXT as in maybe like NXT house shows, maybe NXT when they're over.
Is it like NXT dark matches? Is that where we're going?
That's where I assume he obviously hasn't been on NXT, the television product.
And I watch NXT all the time, and I have not seen him on.
I tell you what, and I don't know WWE if they want to go this dark angle because they're trying to go positive in the world of Saudi Arabia, but I already got a storyline for any of these guys that they hire from Saudi Arabia. And it doesn't have to be, it's not terroristic or anything like that, but it's kind of like the early Muhammad Hassan idea where Muhammad Hassan felt that he was being looked at. He didn't like that he wasn't a terrorist, but that he was being treated like a terrorist and that people were kind of stereotyping him. Well, think of all these wrestlers, the Kevin Owens of the world, the Daniel Bryans, who don't make the trip over to Saudi Arabia. So if they hired these guys and gave them a real push, I got a perfect storyline for the Mansoors of the world. Come over to America and have that as your gripe against the guys who wouldn't come over. Come to America and be like, Daniel Bryan, you wouldn't come to me. You wouldn't come to my country because you think my country is below your country. So I'm coming to your country because I'm not like you, Daniel Bryan. I'm not afraid of your country. You wouldn't come to me. That's disrespecting me. I invite you in my house. I let 60,000 of my family members put on a show. show to honor you. And what do? You stay home. That's disrespectful to my country.
See, that's
so,
ladies and gentlemen, that Jared Wicks, everybody, that was fantastic.
So any of the guys who sat out and didn't come over, he can come to the States and kind of use that as
it's so easy to do. Why aren't we doing this? Jared just came up with off the top of his head and cut a great promo.
I mean, kind of similar to what Muhammad Hassan did. Muhammad Hassan wasn't a terrorist. He said, "I'm not a terrorist. I was born here in the United States, but because my family has that descent, you treat us like that." And you can kind of say that.
That's good. That's good stuff, by the way. And I speak
of right after the Daniel Bryans of the world. Maybe not Sami Zayn because he didn't really necessarily choose not to come, and Aleister Black obviously maybe didn't choose not to come. But the ones who, let's say, didn't choose to come, kind of look at it as a disrespect.
Yeah, I mean, I feel. I mean, I get they have their beliefs on things, and it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, you could use that angle. I think that's a great angle. Hey, WWE,
you got to give this guy something because right now
he
doesn't have anything other than winning these meaningless battle royals. But speaking of these Saudi Arabia shows, and I kind of thought this obviously with The Undertaker and Goldberg, what we've noticed with any of these shows in Saudi Arabia is that because of the high dollar and because of the people who are putting the finances behind this, they demand not a good show, but they demand big names. They're demanding the WrestleMania treatment. They're demanding these star-studded, once-in-a-lifetime matchups. We've obviously seen Undertaker compete in every one of these 3 Saudi Arabia shows so far. Same with Triple H. Brock Lesnar's been a part of all of them. The thing is, they have a 10-year contract. And what we saw with Undertaker and Goldberg is pretty much proof that neither of those guys will be able to perform probably to the end of the 10 years of this.
They shouldn't have performed in general. It was awful.
It is 2019. So with this, probably this will still be around in 2025. Then let's say another 8 shows or, because they're doing 2 a year. Who do you see them being able to really pull out of the hat? I think maybe Triple H will still be kicking around. But, I mean, Undertaker, by the end of this 10-year run, they can't be pulling him out anymore. I mean, he is definitely down to 1 or 2 matches left from what I'm watching.
1 or 2. He should have been done in 2009, like 10 freaking years ago. So, come on.
So the people who are the backing, they're the Fox networks of Saudi Arabia. I mean, that's what it is because obviously we see Fox Network kind of dictating what's going on with SmackDown.
I'll throw something at you. If Saudi Arabia has all this money, why don't you just throw like the whole, buy The Rock? Get The Rock over there for enough money.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. That's what I think.
He's still in great shape. He looks better than most.
I mean, right now he's very busy, but I'm assuming in 5 or 6 years,
but here's the thing.
He might be the version of The Undertaker.
If you wave enough dollar signs at The Rock, he's going to come. That's how it goes.
True.
I mean, The Rock will come for a big payday. He's a rich guy.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? If you throw enough money at him, he's probably going to come.
I'm not looking at the shows right now or the upcoming show in the fall. I'm just looking at the fact that this is year 2 of a 10-year contract. And I don't know how much longer they can be wheeling out The Undertaker or wheeling out Kane or wheeling out Shawn Michaels. I don't know how much longer they can do that, but I feel with the money they paid, 10 years down the line, they're still going to be demanding the same effect. They're still going to be demanding in 2026 a show that is comparable to WrestleMania on paper.
You know what's going to happen in 2026? The old guys are going to be like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. So that's, be honest here. Maybe not Seth Rollins, but Roman Reigns is. I think Roman Reigns is in his early 30s, mid 30s at this point.
Yeah,
Randy Orton. There you go. There's a name. Randy Orton. That's the name.
You would think that people like Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins would be the old guys, but obviously looking at how we treat WrestleMania every single year, people like The Undertaker are kicking around for a reason. Because even though, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, they're still the old guys, it seems to be this tie to the 90s that WWE can't just drop. There isn't a WrestleMania that goes by that doesn't have somebody who was a champion in the 90s still performing at the current WrestleMania. Even as people like John Cena are getting older and they're turning into the new, Stone Cold Steve Austins. We still do though have the Stone Cold Steve Austins, Mick Foley's, Rocks, so.
And here's the thing, and I'm glad you brought up the whole 90s.
It's this specific group that they can't seem to drop.
The Attitude Era. I've actually been reading a lot online that WWE's looking to make a move to maybe do more Attitude Era type storylines. I think it's to get ratings up, to keep on Fox, because from what I've been reading, Fox might not be in play. Fox Sports 1 might be in play because of how bad the ratings are. They're not holding up the end of their deal.
I still think that WWE is going to debut because mainly they've already started advertising that they will debut on
How long
Fox.
does it stay on Fox, though?
That's a good question. How long stay on Fox? Speaking of being on Fox, they've unveiled a new logo for SmackDown. I don't know if you've seen this yet.
I have not, no.
There's anything grand about it except for the fact that they dropped live from the name. Do you
SmackDown?
find that any sort of indication that down the line they won't be live in the future?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I could see it being recorded. I mean,
I think that would be a huge disservice, though, if they
Yeah, I
are
agree.
not live, because of the fact that we're talking about all the stuff that WWE has to bring to the table to keep up with, their end of the bargain for being on Fox and actually having a better SmackDown. Well, the best thing going for SmackDown, and one of the best things that got SmackDown ahead of the ratings of Raw many years ago, about 2 years ago now, is the fact that they moved to live. I think if they go back to being taped, I mean, they would have to put on. It's too high. It's too hard, I guess, is the best way to do it. The kind of caliber of show that they would have to put on to get people to watch wrestling predetermined would be something that I don't think that they could deliver. I think that being live is already not good enough, but it's essentially like the Milwaukee Brewers versus the Kansas City Royals in a baseball game. It's already a hard enough product to sell live to a national audience. But if you were going to sell that game on tape delay, it would have to have been like the most talked about baseball game in the history of baseball.
it'd have to be like a walk-off, some crazy walk-off.
Bottom of the
grand slam,
27th
yeah.
inning, something that is just so wild and to be seen. Because like I said, SmackDown in the 90s was taped in the early 2000s. But remember, that's also from an era where we didn't have Twitter and Instagram and social media,
Yeah,
But
different era.
And it was taped. So you have that element. And then when it was taped and we did have things like social media, it was absolute garbage. And not necessarily because the product itself, I mean, obviously it was a product of the times, but I think right now, one of the things that you got to make sure it stays alive. I mean, because that's the only thing you can hold on to that is keeping SmackDown of interest because, and same with Raw. I mean, obviously, look at Raw. I mean, Raw is a perfect example this past week. It was live, and yet it was still not worth watching. So if it was on
Awful.
tape delay, I can't even imagine. The Rival on Raw became the new tag team champions. That was the only highlight. We did not have an appearance by Brock Lesnar this week.
Thank God.
He took the slow way back from Saudi Arabia. Why? Thank God. Now, you want to see Brock Lesnar more? I thought that's the whole reason you dislike Brock Lesnar.
No, I don't want to see Brock Lesnar anymore. As I've said on previous shows, go away. Brock, just go away. I'm
Well,
just
he's Money in the
over
Bank.
it.
He can't go away yet. But how
Can he just cash it in and be done with it?
did you
it's a
at all
waste.
find any sort of enjoyment of Brock Lesnar getting beat up in Saudi Arabia by Seth Rollins? I mean, a little turn
Yeah,
there.
that was nice. I like that. I always like seeing Brock get beat down because he just needs to be gone. I want him to get obviously the beat downs are quote unquote really bad, so you're off TV for a while. I would want him to get beat down, on the storyline bad enough where he doesn't come back.
Okay, so
Storyline wise, of course.
here's some other storyline wise, and it kind of looks like it's heading that way. So Kofi Kingston, your current champion, and speaking of somebody we've had a little too much of lately, strong rumors, and it's the same person who put out a few strong rumors that came out true in the world. Some reputable sources, let's just say that much, are speculating Shane McMahon might be the one to dethrone Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship. If you're not watching on YouTube, Brandon just put his head down there. What is your opinions on Shane McMahon, potentially your next WWE champion?
If that happens, I don't know what to do. That is the stupidest thing. He needs to stay off of doing any matches. They should have him on.
Well, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. I mean,
It's stupid. It's like, here's the thing: you waste like an hour a week having him on the airwaves when you got Finn Balor not on matches for the last couple weeks. Like, what the hell are we doing? Like, that's ridiculous. Buddy Murphy hasn't been on matches. I know he's 205 Live, but hell, I'd rather see Buddy Murphy at this point than frickin' Shane McMahon, being the best in the world. Shane, you're not the best in the world. Like, we got to get over this whole thing. And here's the thing: he's dragging down a talent like Drew McIntyre. Like, Drew McIntyre is like his lackey now. No. Drew McIntyre should be, the face. He needs to be a champion. Drew McIntyre, if you're going to give anybody a push out of that little scenario, I wish Drew McIntyre would just turn on Shane or something. I mean, Elias is getting dragged down by Shane. It's this whole Shane thing is just awful. We just need to get rid of it, be done with it. I'm over it. Shane, just go back to being the back office guy. Maybe you come out like during a little brawl and you say, all right, you know what, guys, you guys are really beating the crap out of each other. We're gonna make it a tag team match.
And that's kind of the funny thing in the world of professional wrestling, how quickly the tides change of excitement. Because people, for example, like Shane McMahon, I remember when he made his return right before WrestleMania 32. And that was a pop to see Shane McMahon back in WWE.
Loved it.
And how quickly or even, let's say, Brock Lesnar when he made that return after WrestleMania 28 and F5'd John Cena.
Yeah,
Were you not excited about that when that happened? Did you not get excited that Brock Lesnar made a return to WWE in 2011?
Nope, not a fan of Brock. Haven't been a fan of Brock since his original days back in, 04, 05? I'm not a Brock guy. Just haven't been.
You've never been a Brock guy, even when it was kind of apparent he was coming back to WWE maybe full time.
No, I'm not a Brock fan. I haven't been a Brock fan since he first left. What was that like? What was it? 05, 06? It's been a long time.
So I heard this said for something like a comedian once said what I'm about to say, and it has to do kind of with The Simpsons and dementia. And dementia, when somebody has dementia, they said it's like The Simpsons, because Simpsons is now on season number 655 or something like that. It's still on the air. It's unbelievably hard to believe it is. But somebody said it's something, dementia's like The Simpsons, and it's still there. It's you who has to decide when to let go. Like when your grandmother has dementia. That person's still there. It's you who has to decide when to let go. The Simpsons is still there. It's not when The Simpsons ends that you will stop watching. It is when now you have to make the conscious decision. People probably say that about WWE. They say, it's never going to not be there. I guess you got to get to a certain age when you have to decide to stop watching it. But
it's getting that bad, though. So it's bad.
I won't say that with WWE yet, but Impact Wrestling still exists, still kicking around, even with AEW.
Wait, it does?
TNA Impact, or just Impact Wrestling nowadays, still exists, sponsored by Twitch and Pursuit and whatever channels it's currently on.
So it's pretty useless.
Slammiversary, an event that I thought was kind of a bigger deal. Probably 10 years ago now. I remember when it had Abyss and Samoa Joe and highlighted by Kurt Angle. Well, that event is still happening. It's happening this Sunday night in Dallas. Rob Van Dam is in a match now, so I don't want to highlight the whole card or anything like that. But here's a name of somebody who's kind of a free agent. WWE doesn't have him. AEW doesn't have him. Rob Van Dam. Do you still have any interest in watching Rob Van Dam? If you were another company outside of Impact Wrestling, would you be pursuing RVD?
Yeah, why not? I think RVD is good for... I would put RVD in the category of maybe like a Chris Jericho kind of schedule. Like, it's cool to have him there for a little bit, and then let him go do his thing. I think he's into the pot business now, the marijuana business. I think he is now. I saw stuff on Twitter. So maybe, do the Chris Jericho treatment before Chris Jericho went to AEW. You have him come in and then, let him go. And every few months or every couple months, you give him a break and have him come back. I'm okay with that. I mean, as long as RVD can still go, which I don't see any reason why he still can't go. Why not?
Let's pretend that you are not entirely against watching Impact Wrestling and that it's not maybe the new thing on the block, but it is one of... Let's say it's got a fresh start like AEW or Ring of Honor, any of these things, and you're looking for a new wrestling product to watch, and you don't know about the history of Impact Wrestling or anything like that. And would you be interested in maybe picking it up if you found out somebody like RVD was kind of leading the way? Let's say you just found all you knew about Impact Wrestling was it was on television, they have pay-per-views on occasion, and RVD is their world champion.
RVD now? No. RVD, 10 years ago? Sure. I'd probably watch it.
So he's not. You don't think he's somebody who could carry a company?
No.
Chris Jericho obviously is in AEW because people think that he can carry a company.
Yeah, I mean, okay, maybe it's not the best example, but I'm talking about like schedule wise. Like you have him come in, he does a few things for a couple months, gets a couple pops, makes a few great storylines, couple great matches, then you move on. He's not.
Who
on the
do you
level
think
Chris
could
Jericho.
save Impact? If you could pick one person, all right, AEW, WWE, they have their slew of getting a lot of guys. If CM Punk or you name the person, who could maybe save, maybe not for good, but who could bring Impact Wrestling back to the conversation again?
CM Punk.
CM Punk.
Yep, that's it. That's the only name.
You can't think of another name that would just CM Punk?
I mean, Chris Jericho.
Is he just the hottest guy in wrestling, CM Punk?
Yeah, I mean, Chris Jericho a few years ago, yes. Chris Jericho is, yes, he's a main event guy, but I don't think Chris Jericho can't be the flag bearer. I mean, he can be one of the top guys, but he can't be the top guy. Like, I mean, yes, he's got the championship, which I still can't figure out how Kenny Omega's not the champion, but that's neither here nor there. But I mean, he could be a top of the.
What do you mean he's got the championship?
Chris Jericho, or no, I'm sorry. He's going for the championship. Excuse me.
Gotcha.
My fault. He's going against Hangman Page, right?
Yes.
Yeah. My fault. Eric, correct. You can correct me on that one. But it's still, he beats Kenny Omega. Like, what? I mean, why is he beating Kenny Omega? What's wrong with Kenny Omega? Why is he not in the title picture right away?
Final thing we'll talk about, just quickly. Do you have any hope that Stomping Ground it can be better than Saudi Arabia show? Do you? I obviously know it can be. Anything can be. It's got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah.
But the question I guess I have is, do you have expectations for Stomping Ground, or what is your opinion on that? Does it just look like the Super Showdown in America?
Yeah, hopefully it's a shorter time frame. Hopefully it's maybe 3 hours. I mean,
is there anything you're looking forward to at Stomping Ground?
Not at this point. I mean, I'm so disappointed with the product right now. I'm ready for AEW to give me a boost. It's been WWE has been. I still watch the shows. And believe it or not, yes, maybe my tone. Maybe you think, he doesn't watch them anymore. No, I watch SmackDown and Raw every single week. I fast forward through the commercials because I DVR them and watch them, in shorter fashion. I watch every single segment every single week, hoping to see something. And the only thing I get is the Firefly Playhouse.
The Firefly Funhouse, that is the best thing
yes.
going on in WWE right now. But next week, either way, we're going to talk Stomping Ground. We'll try to give our predictions on the matches, see if Mansoor will win something in Tacoma, Washington.
And hopefully,
time will tell.
Hopefully, Stomping Grounds is good. Hopefully.
Yeah.
We'll see. I don't think I'm holding up. I'm not hopeful.
You're not hopeful. Hopefully, Stomping Ground's good. Either way, we'll talk about it next week because that's what we do here. We talk about the world of professional wrestling, good, bad, and ugly, which it seems like it's the two ladders.
It's very ugly, yes.
Yes. All right, till next week, that is Icebreaker21 on Twitter, myself at KRock Jared, and most importantly, follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Heel to the Face. We'll talk Stomping Ground and more next week. This has been the Heel to the Face.